All right, thanks everyone for coming. Good morning. Thank you to the press, to the Senate, and the Assembly. My name is Renee Vogelsang. I'm the New York Director at Frack Action. We started close to 15 years ago, believe it or not, as an emergency response to fracking in New York. Together with friends and colleagues who are here today, we organized the New Yorkers Against Fracking Coalition and stopped fracking from devastating our health, our environment, and our state. As fortunate as it is to see all of your faces here today, it is unfortunate that we have to be back here saying no to something we already said no to loud and clear 10 years ago. This past October, a company called Southern Tier C02 to Clean Energy Solutions sent letters to over 6,500 landowners in Broome, Chemung, and Tioga counties to lease their land in the Southern Tier to extract gas by injecting carbon dioxide in the Marcellus Shale Formation and build at least 10 new gas-fired power plants across the region. From what we know about drilling with CO2, it's the same problem by a different name. We face many of the same impacts to our health, our water, our air, our communities, and our safety. Many residents were alarmed by the proposal and quickly sprang into action, including, thankfully, Assemblymember Kellis and Senator Webb. Thank you. New York State roundly rejected fracking before, and we join our elected leaders again today to support the passage of a bill to amend the fracking ban law already in place to close this loophole and ban the use of CO2 for gas drilling and extraction in New York. This bill has passed both the Assembly and the Senate Environmental Conservation Committees and is ready to go to the floor for a vote. We are here today to ask Leader Stewart Cousins and Speaker Hasty to put the bills on their agendas and to vote the bill on the floor and get the frackers out the door. Today, we are joined by our bill sponsors, Senator Leah Webb and Assembly members Anna Kellis, along with co-sponsors Senators Krueger, Hinchey, and Assembly members Lupardo and Fahey, along with longtime anti-fracking advocate, acclaimed musician and lifelong New Yorker Natalie Merchant, Climate Reality Project leader and actor Tim Guinea, Tim's over here, and a number of our organizations, as well as our friends from the Akwesasne Mohawk Nation, whose land we stand on today, and I'd like to acknowledge that. And Senator May, Rachel May. I would now like to introduce the Senate sponsor of the bill, who is a lifelong resident of the Southern Tier and also one of the strongest defenders of the region when she served on the City Council in Binghamton during the fight to ban fracking all those many years ago. Senator Leah Webb.
Thank you. Ban fracking now! Ban fracking now! Ban fracking now! Ban fracking now! Yes, 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 yes. Thank you all so much for being here. I want to acknowledge all of my colleagues here. We have been joined by Senator Liz Krueger, who is our co-prime sponsor in the Senate on this bill and has been a long-time advocate for environmental justice, unapologetically. Thank you so much, Senator Krueger. Can we please give her a round of applause? Of course, Senator Rachel May, and just some my Assembly colleagues that are here, which I know they will all say a few words. I'll keep my comments brief because we know what needs to be done. When I was on City Council a long time ago, but not that long ago, this issue came up, and it was brought up in such a way in an area such as mine and many others as a golden ticket opportunity, if you will, for economic advancement. But there was a cost that was never talked about by those who are offering this opportunity, and that is a cost to our health, to our environment, and that is nothing that no money can ever buy or replace. Yay, and so when this issue was brought to our attention, I want to thank Assemblymember Donna Lupardo, who was the first person that actually was alerted. Her and I talked, and we sent a letter to the DEC saying that this company is yet again offering another opportunity, but at the expense of working families. at the expense of our community. And along with Assemblymember Kellis, along with Senator Krueger, we have introduced this bill that whether they call it hydrofracking, CO2, it's all fracking by the same name. And the reality is the impacts are too devastating, and we have taken a lot of consideration. We've taken a lot of steps legislatively to protect our environment, protect our health, and we are saying that we're not going back as a state, as a community, as a country. And so it is imperative that this legislation is passed. And this moment wouldn't be actualized truly if it wasn't for all of you advocates. So please give yourselves a round of applause. You always, as an advocate and organizer myself, as legislators, we need you. You help us to not only raise our level of understanding and awareness, but you help us to fight the good fight. And what we're talking about here, as a state, we have been making incredible advancements in protecting our land, our water, trying to address longstanding public health issues. We implemented and we started implementing the CLCPA. This is landmark legislation that is helping us to combat the very real, I want to make that very clear, the very real and ever-present impacts of climate change. And so it is imperative that as a state that we continue to move in the direction that ultimately protects the health and well-being of our communities. We are making those investments in economic development through good, clean energy initiatives that promote green jobs. I could go on, but I won't. But all this to say, we banned fracking here in New York. Yes? Yes. I want to make sure I'm in the right place. Yes. And so, you know, I was proud to be one of those leaders, albeit at the local level, that led this fight along with so many of you. And so we stand here today to say, again, we need to not only pass this bill in the Senate and the Assembly, but we need the governor to sign it into law. There was a letter that was created that had more than 90 environmental, public health, and community organizations that is calling upon this action to happen, the action of signing this law into legislation into law. And I want to thank everyone who is here today. We are committed to seeing this to the finish line. And as I often remark, these companies continue to find loopholes or thrifty ways to, again, offer economic opportunities, but at the expense, I want to make that very clear, of our livelihood, not just now, but for generations to come. And we can as a state, and we must as a state, require that we do better. And we can do that, right? Yeah. We can do that, right? Thank you all so much. I'm proud to stand here with you in this fight, and let's keep going until this is completely over the finish line as a law. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Senator Webb. Thank you so much for your leadership. And we're just so excited to see this through here with you. I wanted to acknowledge Assembly members Sarah Hanna Shrestha and Harvey Epstein for joining us and supporting this bill. And next up, we're going to have a longtime leader and friend of this movement, Senator Liz Krueger, to say a few words. Thank you, buddy.
All right. Oh, that same gross bottle. I think I remember it from a decade ago. Still poison. Still poison. So you've already heard it all. And some of us have been around long enough to know what a fight we had getting a moratorium and then a ban on fracking in this state. And so we know that this is a wolf in sheep's clothing. And we're not going to be fooled, and it's not going to take us another decade to make sure this doesn't happen. But I'll just point out a couple of stories from then. Because we had hearings around this, and we learned that these farmers were being offered a very minimal sum of money to sell their rights. And then we would have insurance industry experts come and say, no one will ever insure that land again. You will never be able to sell it. and the land will be so polluted you won't be able to farm it. So you can't farm it if you do this, and you can't sell it. And they would go, and we're being offered like $10 a month. Are we kidding? And so people started to understand the real risks to their own health and the economies of Western New York. And I remember literally having this conversation with then Governor Andrew Cuomo. And he said, I'm just going to let them do it out there in those 3 western counties. You're from New York City. What do you even care? That was what he said. What do you care? And I said, Mr. Governor, I think both of us took an oath of office when we elected to watch out for all New Yorkers. It doesn't matter whether I don't represent those counties. We're talking about the health and safety and economics of a major section of the state. And you are elected to be all the people's governor, and this is ridiculous. Also, we all know when it comes to environmental damage, water and air, something gets into our water system, it spreads everywhere. Something pollutes our environment, it spreads everywhere. So the illusion that downstate pollution doesn't matter to upstate, and upstate new risks to water and air don't matter to downstate is ridiculous and frankly insulting to all of us. So I am here to absolutely say this bill is critical, and it shouldn't be a problem. We should just get it done in both houses and expect we won't have these same ridiculous conversations with Governor Hochul that we found ourselves having with Governor Cuomo. Because I'll never forget that day. What do you care? It's not in your part of the state. Oh my God. So thank you all for being here. Thank you to my colleagues in the Assembly who I think are running a little late, the co-sponsors, and to my lead sponsor here, Webb, who immediately said to me, we got to do something, and this really matters at home. And that's right, it really matters at home, but it matters in all 62 counties of New York State, and we're not going to let it happen. So thank you.
Get it done!
Thank you, Senator Krueger. At our last massive anti-fracking rally here in Albany before New York's ban was announced, we were all honored to be joined by Congressman Maurice Hinchey, who fought so hard to keep this state's environment clean. Well, we're now thrilled to be joined by co-sponsor of this bill, Senator Michelle Hinchey, to say a couple words.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hello, and thank you. Hello, everyone. It is so wonderful to join you here, although what we're talking about is so deeply frustrating and problematic. But it is so exciting to see such a strong, vibrant, loud, incredible coalition of people who are standing up, fighting against something that we've already talked about years ago. Thank you to Senator Webb, to Senator Krueger, hello, to any Assembly member, Kellis, and everyone here for your leadership on this issue. I started my professional career when I graduated from college as a grassroots canvasser for Environment New York, working to ban fracking across our state. Right before the moratorium was put in place, with many of you in that fight. And I learned that from my father, who stood here again with so many of you loudly and proudly against the practice of fracking. We know this is not acceptable for our planet or for our communities. We know it is predatory against the communities in which it is sited, and we said strongly that we cannot stand for it. And yet here we are today in 2024 with CO2 fracking as a possibility in our communities. And what do we say to that? No! We say no because this is diabolical that we are here again fighting for something we already know is a problem. But I thank you, everyone, for coming together and not letting this fall through, no pun intended, but fall through the cracks. We are here loudly to say in the state of New York, we will have no type of fracking, no hydraulic fracturing, no CO2 fracking, whatever type of fracking is coming down the pike next that they want to throw at us, we still say no. So, ban fracking now. Ban fracking now. fracking now! Ban fracking now! Ban fracking now! So thank you, everyone. I'm proud to stand with you. I'm proud to continue the Hinchey family tradition of standing against the practice of fracking because it did not work then, it does not work now, it will not work in the future. Thank you, everyone, very much.
Thank you so much, Senator Hinchey. So we have, without further ado, a scientist, a staunch supporter of the environment, expert, amazing human being, Assemblymember Anna Kellis.
Thank you guys all for your patience. Thank you for all being here. I mean, this is so gorgeous. I needed this with the schedule that we keep. This is just absurd, but this is where my heart is. This is where I wanted to be. And there's a million things that I could say. I'm going to try and stay on a straight line, but I do want to double down on what my friend and colleague, Senator Hinchey, said. There is no substrate that you can use that will make extracting methane from the Marcellus shale by explosions, right, fracturing the stone, safe. Literally nothing. There's no substrate. Just because we're changing from a water-based substrate to a carbon dioxide-based substrate does not make it any safer. What we know, regardless of what substrate you use, if you are fracturing the ground to suck methane out, you are going to have leakage of that methane, which means that it is going to send us in the wrong direction from our CLCPA goals, which I hate that I have to remind everyone, but it is law. We passed it. So it would be against our own laws to go in the wrong direction and not meet our 2030 goals. So we know that we will have methane leakage. Secondly, we know from previous studies in New York State on this very issue that we have significant amounts of radioactive material in the Marcellus shale that will also be sucked up if we do fracturing of the rock to remove the methane. So those two things alone should be reason that we uphold our existing law that was intended to ban fracking in New York State. That was its purpose. Thank you. So I want to talk a little bit about carbon dioxide. What we're talking about is supercritical carbon dioxide, which means that it is higher pressure and temperature than the ambient levels for carbon dioxide. Right? So one of the things that we know about this supercritical carbon dioxide is when it is mixed with water, even the smallest amounts of water, it becomes highly corrosive. And we do not have massive amounts of carbon dioxide laying around, supercritical carbon dioxide, that we can use as a substrate to do this fracturing, which means that we would need to ship it across the United States in a network of pipes, above-ground pipes, which have been built over the last 10 years to get it to New York State. So we have to look at the upstream risks. If we are shipping supercritical carbon dioxide through these pipes, and it is highly, highly, highly corrosive when mixed with the smallest amount of water, I don't know about you all, but I've never seen a pipe that does not leak.
Yay, true.
I've never seen it.
Yes.
Which means that we are going to have water mixing with this supercritical carbon dioxide, which is exactly what happened last year in Mississippi. That resulted in a massive explosion of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, sending 45 people into the hospital. And why? One of the biggest reasons and why the impact was as severe as it was is because vehicles with combustion engines need what to run? Oxygen. So if you have an atmosphere where all the oxygen has been displaced by carbon dioxide, your vehicles will shut down. So how are these vehicles supposed to reach people when explosions happen? And I did not say if, I said when. So we can't just look at the fact that it is utterly not true that this is safe because we know it will release methane, we know it will release radioactive material, but it will also be putting so many people at risk because of these increased risk of carbon dioxide explosions that are happening. That is so important. And the last thing that I want to say, I have right here a Scientific American article that just came out by a geologist, The False Promise of Carbon Capture, noting that you need 12, 15, 20 years of research on a rock bed to determine that it is absolutely not permeable so that you can store carbon dioxide so that it will not leak back out. So if we know we're using a mechanism that is using explosions, explosives, to fracture rock bed to pull out the methane, how are we going to justify saying that that carbon dioxide is going to stay where we put it when it's a semi-gaseous form? I don't know about you, but gas rises in my reality. So I just don't see that happening. This is not tested. It's been shown to not test. And the whole reason that we're pushing it is because the oil and gas industry wants an excuse to continue to suck carbon dioxide-based or methane, carbon dioxide, fossil fuels, all of these gases and oils from the ground. This is their justification. We suck it out, we'll create waste, the carbon dioxide waste, we'll just shove it back in the ground again. It'll stay, we'll suck out more. It's allowing them to continue to say that don't look over here. We can depend on fossil fuels as long as we want. It's an excuse. It does not work. It's not tested. It's not validated. The science is not there. In a nutshell, we cannot do this. This is not scientifically responsible. It is a small change in this bill. It is 3 words. And carbon dioxide. We are closing a loophole. It's not rocket science. It's not brilliant. It's not out of this world. It's not crazy. It is pragmatic, simple, scientific closing of a loophole. That is why we're here. We will get it done right away. I have the support of all these lovely people. We have the support of the scientific community. Let's get this done. This is the right thing to do. And I will dork out with the best of them. So let's do this.
Let's hear it for Assemblymember Anna Kellis, our sponsor. Thank you so much. Before we hear from some of the scientists, actually, and advocates, I would like to first acknowledge Assemblymember Linda Rosenthal for her support and presence with us today. And I also, is Senator May here still? I would like to toss it to a champion of the environment in New York State. Is Senator May still here? Oh, okay. All right. Well, we missed our chance for Senator May. But so
She's smiling at us from over there.
yes. So we appreciate her support as well. So I'm going to toss it to Sandra. So you may know Dr. Sandra Steingraber is an initial co-founder of the New Yorkers Against Fracking Coalition, also a co-founder of Concerned Health Professionals of New York, and a senior scientist at the Science and Environmental Health Network, an internationally renowned acclaimed scientist and health professional, Dr. Sandra Steingraber.
Good morning. I am Sandra Steingraber, PhD biologist and senior scientist at the Science and Environmental Health Network. Many of you know me as one of the OGs of New Yorkers Against Fracking, launched 12 years ago, actually, this month. And I'm a co-founder of Concerned Health Professionals of New York, which functioned as the scientist in resident to the anti-fracking movement. And we won. We won. So the last time I stood in this space to celebrate that victory, my hair was a different color, and my youngest son was in middle school. And now that kid is 6'3", has graduated from college, and works as a climate reporter. And I am here with a head full of gray hair to add my voice and my data to the new campaign to defend our statewide fracking ban against a bad magic show from Texas that pretends it's possible to construct a perpetual motion machine that will sprawl across 3 of our counties and use toxic liquefied CO2 waste to force methane out of our bedrock, burn it in a bunch of new gas-fired power plants, and capture that CO2 and extract more methane to make more CO2 to extract more methane. Right. Southern Tier Solutions claims they can carry that on indefinitely, round and round, collecting taxpayer dollars as subsidies without leaks, without spills or emissions, no explosions, no accidents, nor blowouts, no harm to the climate, no harm to the people who live here. And I'm here to say, as a biologist and on behalf of all of Concerned Health Professionals of New York, that's not what the science shows. And urge a floor vote on Assembly Bill 8866 and Senate Bill 8357, which will turn science into law. and prohibit well permits using CO2 to extract gas, closing that loophole in our statewide fracking ban. We know that CO2 fracking will bring harm to New York. We know that because concerned health professionals of New York compiled a 600-page compendium, a compilation of peer-reviewed studies demonstrating the risks and harms of fracking. We've already done that science. It's divided into 17 chapters. Only one of those chapters is about the problem of fracking wastewater. And yet Southern Tier Solutions alleges that using carbon dioxide sidesteps all of the other problems that fracking creates. It does not. Many of the problems of shale gas extraction come from drilling, and subbing in hypercritical CO2 for water doesn't obviate the need to drill. We have very good data showing that drilling, which is a weeks-long process, releases plumes of methane and hazardous air pollutants such as benzene, formaldehyde, and radioactive particles. We have dozens of studies already showing that drilling increases smog and harms the health of those living nearby. We have evidence from Pennsylvania showing that those health harms are elevated among those living downwind from well sites. Subbing in carbon dioxide for water doesn't obviate any of those problems, and it doesn't obviate the problems of drill cuttings. Massive amounts of solid waste still will have to come out of miles-long holes in the ground that become gas wells. Drill cuttings in the Marcellus are notoriously radioactive and full of heavy metals. Subbing in CO2 for water doesn't obviate the problem of industrialization. We have hundreds of studies in our compendium showing that shale gas extraction brings habitat destruction, erosion, invasive species, die-offs of birds and wildlife, noise pollution, light pollution, and road damage. We also know that subbing in carbon dioxide for water as the agent of fracking introduces new additional risks. Carbon dioxide converts to acid when it contacts water. That's what makes it so corrosive when carried in pipelines. CO2 pipelines are vulnerable to breaches called unzippering. Long sections of pipelines split open, spilling liquid CO2 to the ground. So my takeaway here is that CO2-based gas extraction in New York is a deeply bad experiment. It's all based on all the available science. We need to pass legislation that protects New York's climate, water, air, and public health, and send a bad magic show back to Texas.
CO2 fracking's got to go, hey, hey, ho, ho. CO2 fracking's got to go. Thank you so much, Dr. Steingraber. And our next speaker is one of the people who worked tirelessly to protect our state from fracking so many years ago. You might have remembered an epic concert here in Albany at the Egg. She's an acclaimed artist and musician who was born and raised in Allegheny County, New York, Natalie Merchant.
Hello, everyone. I see lots of familiar faces, and I have that same experience of seeing, happy to see everyone, not happy about the reason we're here. I'm a lifelong New Yorker, and not just a New Yorker, I'm a rural New Yorker. I've always lived in rural New York, and I spent half my life living in Western New York. So, I don't think this microphone is on. All right. So, it was nearly a decade ago that we gathered here to celebrate the ban on hydraulic fracturing in New York. And it was a marvelous day, but not for the entire country, because fracking continued in many parts of the nation. And we've had this feeling of protection and this grateful feeling that here in New York, we're protecting our critical resources, protecting the future of health of our children. And not only did we have the ban, there was the subsequent law that now enshrines these protections. But obviously, we have to remain vigilant, and I think today's showing of people is proof that New Yorkers are vigilant, and we will not allow this to happen in our state. And in a few short months, the anti-fracking movement has reassembled and now are coalescing around this bill to close the loophole in the fracking law. And from New York City to Buffalo, I think people are going to become aware of what is potentially threatening us and will come together to ensure that our drinking water, our air, our children will all be protected. And this movement is very passionate. I know from personal experience, these people are very passionate. They will not give up. So it's a great honor for me to be here. And let's get this bill passed. Let's get it passed.
Thank you, Natalie. Our next speaker is another great environmental champion in the Assembly, Assemblymember Pat Fahey.
Thank you. It's great to be here with so many of you. I'm thinking Yogi Berra, and it's deja vu all over again. And I think I still even have some of those stickers and the coasters and what have you with the exact same label still, the ban fracking. So I was a very new member. I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to your predecessor, Assemblywoman Barbara Lifton. And it's so great to see her words, her work continue and even be more amplified doubly here with Assemblymember Anna Kellis as well as Senator Leah Webb. So it is an honor to join you. Thank you for taking this up even more. The simplest way I can put this is no time to go backwards. No time to go backwards. I'm proud that New York has stood against this and successfully stood against this. And we will pull together everyone again. We will keep talking because this is not then and certainly not now, whether it's the Southern Tier or elsewhere. Thank you again for speaking out. Thank you again for reassembling and showing up, and we're just going to ban this all over again. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Assembly. Thank you, Assemblymember Fahey. So we're going to have a few more of our environmental leaders and organizational leaders in New York State. Someone who was very instrumental in the movement to ban fracking. I don't know if you remember those DEC protests across the state way back in 2009. But I'll toss it to Frack Action's now executive director, helping to stop fracking in Ireland, helping stop LNG, has done so much, Julia Walsh.
Hey everybody, good to see you all. So I just have a quick question for you. What can you buy with $10 these days? Carton of eggs, coffee at Starbucks, not even a ticket to the movies. And yet this is how much Southern Tier Solutions wants to give New Yorkers to lease their lands in the Southern Tier.
Oh, no way.
Not even $10 per acre. We're talking about $10 per parcel, whether it's 30 acres or 3,000 acres, $10. Does Southern Tier Solutions Texan CEO Bryce Phillips really think that New Yorkers are that gullible? Yeah. The answer right now is yes, they do. But we have something to say to Southern Tier Solutions CEO, Texan Bryce Phillips. Go back to Texas and take your $10 with you because we are not going to have fracking by any name in our state. Let's get this bill to the floor for a vote and over to the governor's desk to sign. Let's vote the bill off the floor and kick these frackers out the door. Vote the bill out the floor and kick the frackers out the door. Vote the bill off the floor. Kick these frackers out the door.
Thanks, Julia. So next, actually, I was going to have Valdi Wiederpass. He's a Southern Tier resident and leader in the Susquehanna Sierra Club group.
Thank you for coming here. My name's Valdi Wiederpass. I'm a volunteer. I'm the chair of the Sierra Club Susquehanna Group. I live in the southern tier of New York, and Southern Tier Solutions is trying to gaslight us by claiming that their risky proposal to produce electricity from hundreds of new CO2 frack gas wells should somehow belong in a basket of renewables. I say no. The company says that their process will produce zero emissions, but I know from my chemical engineering training and experience that their high-pressure processing equipment and pipelines will eventually leak due to vibration and temperature changes, which produce stress, and they can eventually cause rupture, which would release a suffocating cloud of carbon dioxide that can damage victims' lungs, nerves, and brains, or it could result in their death. People in Satarsha, Mississippi that lived through this experience were lucky nobody died, but there are people that have permanent damage from this and are disabled now. Fugitive methane emissions would skyrocket, further wrecking our climate. This appalling idea is not a solution to anything except greed of a few. I asked Majority Leader Stuart Cousins, Speaker Hasty, to put this legislation to ban CO2 fracking up for a vote and for Governor Hochul to sign the bill into law immediately. Ban CO2 fracking now. Ban CO2 fracking now. Let's do it.
Fracking now. Thank you, Valdi. Our next speaker is an actor, advocate, and leader with the Climate Reality Project, Tim Guinea.
Good morning. I'm confused. I don't know why everyone's so upset. I would like to take a moment and thank Southern Tier Solutions, the Texas company, New York City, Texas company, Texas CEO. But I would like to thank them. Years ago, an extraordinary group of advocates and legislators came together to stop fracking in the state of New York. And Texas Solutions, I want to thank you for getting the band back together. You have no idea what you have done. So, Texas has one of the worst environmental records in the country. It's run by a governor who eschews climate science. And now Southern Tier, these carpet-bagging environmental degradators, want to come to the beautiful state of New York and give us the Texas environmental legacy. I don't think they understand who the band they put back together are. In New York, we value the health of our citizenry. We value the health of our environment. And so we will rise, and we are rising against this incursion, and it's not going to go forward. Thank you, Southern Tier, for getting the band back together.
Thank you, Tim Guinea. All right, we just have a couple more environmental leaders. Speaking of getting the band back together, I would like to bring up Food and Water Watch's Northeast Region Director, Alex Beecham. One of the co-founders of the New Yorkers Against Fracking Coalition. They worked tirelessly to stop fracking, not only back in the day in New York, but now around the world, across the country, and they are kicking and taking names, and I'd like to hand it over to Alex to speak further about that.
Wow. Thank you. That's quite the introduction. I'll be really brief. I'm Alex Beecham, the Northeast Region Director at Food and Water Watch. I remember coming up here a dozen years ago, more than a dozen years ago, and back then, I'd come up with people who are here today, Sandra, Wes, many others, and when they would come up, they would talk about how it was hard, they were leaving their kids at home, and I'd ask about their little kids, and there was this sort of like nice story. All of those people are just straight up grown-ups now, with like real careers and lives, and I, amazingly, have a kindergartner at home, a 5-year-old, and I kid you not, he was homesick yesterday. He's fine, he has strep throat, it's no big deal. He was home, and I was telling him, here's where I'm going tomorrow, because I thought he might be home from school today as well. And I said, I'm going to Albany, we're doing this rally about CO2 fracking, blah, blah, blah. He's in kindergarten, and he looks at me, and thought I was lying. He said, Dad, no, you already banned fracking. And he's right. We did. It's insane that we're back here once again, but if that's what it takes, if we have to come up to Albany again and chant ban fracking now, I'm happy to do it year after year after year, and I'm happy to host yet another victory party. Let's get this done. Pass the bill now. Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now. Ban fracking now. Ban fracking now. Ban fracking now. Yes. Is Vanessa here? Yes, she is. Okay. We have another environmental leader who might want to say a few words. That's okay. If she's right, there you are. Did you want to say a few words? Executive Director at Environmental Advocates New York.
Hi, everybody. Sorry to make you all yell, but one more time. Why are we here? Ban fracking! Well, you guys, New York is good at a lot of things. Some people might contest it, but we're really good at football, and we're really good at ice hockey. We're good at growing apples. And you know what we're better at than any other state in the country? Banning fracking. Environmental action too. But we are the best state at banning fracking. Let's not give up that title. Let's maintain this ban. Let's protect our communities, because it doesn't make sense not to. So when you talk to your legislators today, when you're talking to your friends tomorrow, make sure they know this is not different than anything that has happened. This is making sure we don't make things so much worse. I want to thank all of our legislators, our sponsors, and all of the incredible organizers, and especially Renee and Julia for doing everything to bring us all together today. Thank you, Renee. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. And we'd also like to thank all of the organizations represented here today. There's so many. That is how we are the best at banning fracking in New York, because we are a coalition of groups. We are powerful. We are an educated and powerful, population here in New York State. We're relentless, and we believe in ourselves.
We will not stop until we get it done.
We won't stop. We have Craig Stevens here today, who I would like to acknowledge, from Pennsylvania, showing us what the results from fracking could potentially pose. We have similar risks to our water, into our air, into our public health from this CO2 style fracking. Let's not be fooled. 16 years of water damage in Pennsylvania, right over the border. So we continue to stand in solidarity with Pennsylvania to help our neighbors and friends in Pennsylvania, and we're going to continue to lead the way on climate in New York State by banning CO2 fracking. We want to get it off the floor into the governor's desk ASAP, and we're going to go meet with legislators today, so we're about to go do that.